Good morning. As I get everything adjusted here. I think my kids play with the setup between shows. I always have to adjust the chair, adjust the lights just a little bit. It is a great morning. TW, congratulations. You are the proud owner of the internet. Being the first in here has its rewards, and so you being the first one in chat, you have won the internet for the day. I don't know what you're going to do with it. Let us know. Give us an idea. It's with great potential comes great responsibility or something like that. Yeah, so please be careful and keep it up for us. Good morning, Abby. Welcome as well from the UK. Glad to have you here. Bella, wonderful. It is a beautiful morning. It's going to be a little cooler today here in North Carolina. Abby is handing out drinks all around. Good morning from Illinois, Mary Kay. Glad to have you here as well. We're going to be talking about a little bit of looking back at what happened. We're gonna do just a brief update, and I've promised a couple people that I'm going to try to keep my ADD in check and try to stay more focused, so I'm not jumping and giving you guys whiplash with how quickly my mind jumps from idea to idea. And that might mean that I'm a little slow in responding to the chat, and I do apologize for that if that's the case. But let's see. Chat window is appearing funny in my program. Well, anyway, we'll deal with that at a later point. But we do have, let's see, we've got, it looks okay here. All right. TW gave me back the internet. I don't want that responsibility, really. I really don't. Why do you think I was giving it away in the first place? But I appreciate the offer. Unfortunately, it's yours until we go live again. So, sorry, man. That's what happens. If you don't want it, don't be first in chat, all right? Let's see. Bella, TW, Ed, welcome. Oakenfold? Ed, what's Oakenfold? You have me confused, too. Alexis, good morning, my friends. It's great to have you here. Let's see if things are popping up. Yep, everything's working. Everything's working this morning, which is wonderful. That's a good sign. It's a wonderful sign. Good morning, everybody. It's a little early for some of you and a little late for others. I'm looking at Abby. It's late in the afternoon there, I think, but she's amazing. Abby is here. Like, it doesn't matter when I'm live. Abby comes on the show, and I don't know when you sleep, Abby, but please make sure you get enough sleep. I want you to stay healthy and be able to join us for many moons to come. Ed says, Oakenfold is a trance-style music artist. It sounded like his stuff. It probably copies his stuff, but this is from the YouTube audio library. I have to choose videos or audio that won't get my account hit with a copyright strike. And so a lot of the songs they offer have a very familiar feel and sound to them, but they're different enough that they aren't really that person's music. Well, Mama says, good morning from Utah. What part of Utah, Well, Mama? I used to live in Layton, or as we say in Utah, Layton. Let's see. Bella is bragging about the weather. We're all coming to Bella's house this afternoon. It's going to be 88 degrees in Fort Myers, Florida. Fort Myers, man, never mind, we're not all coming. We realize you guys are still doing major cleanup, and we'll only come down if we bring shovels and chainsaws. Lots of cleanup still happening down there. It'll be a while. Abby says, 1 p.m. here. Sleep? What's that? Who needs sleep, right? That is... Sometimes I feel like that, and then other times it's just I sleep all day. But Son moved back from Chattanooga, Glasgow, Scotland, UK. Welcome, Carly. Good to have you here. Here's a scary question. How many still without power in Fort Myers? I'll let Carly answer or not Carly, sorry. I'm going to let Bella answer for sure on that. But I think the people that are out without power right now are the ones that are also without homes. I think most of the power has been restored to all those areas. So the people who lost everything obviously still don't have power because they don't have a home to power. Northern Utah, Logan, nice and chilly. I've got family there. Actually, if you only Well Mama will know what this means, but I grew up on the island in Logan. There's a river island, and we lived on that. Love Logan, beautiful. The canyon. If you guys ever get a chance to visit Logan, first of all, they have some of the most amazing factories. They've got the Pepperidge Farm factory, so the company that makes goldfish crackers, they make them right there, and you can go and you can buy their seconds in bulk, and it's like ridiculously cheap, and you can get tons of food. My kids love it. Every time we went by there, we would fill up on those. They also have a creamy factory where they make these little lollipops, popsicle type things that are it's heaven on a stick. That's what it is, really. I'm sure it's not very healthy at all, but they are delicious. Anyway, Well Mama, have one of those for me because they don't sell them out here in North Carolina. Aline says, hi, Scott. Good morning from Sacramento. Welcome. It's a little early for you, but I'm glad you're here. Love the island. The market's super cute. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm glad you're connected from there. Appreciate it. Let's see. We have a couple things to talk about. One of them is going to be just the most amazing, powerful moment that happened yesterday in the Parkland Shooter trial. That trial is done. We're done looking at him in court with a blank stare on his face. He has been sentenced to 34 consecutive life sentences with no chance of parole. It's not going to happen. He's not going to get out of prison. He'll spend the rest of his life there. And the families finally can move on. But before they moved on, before they closed this chapter of their lives, they got an opportunity to speak and say what they felt. And for the most part, there was a lot of anger. Understandably, there was a ton of anger. These families just have been through hell, really, and it's been dragged out for 4 years as this trial just painstakingly went through the process. And it finally ended with them being able to speak. Had some drama a couple days ago where the defense was objecting to some of the things they were saying. Obviously, the families were upset at the defense team for what they did, for how they presented the shooter, for how they may have used emotion to prey on the goodness of the jury, to try to get him off with a lesser charge, and the defense won. Really, I mean, as far as victories go, they were able to spare him the death penalty, which was their goal all along. So there was some frustration there. A lot of the families wanted to see the shooter receive the same treatment that their kids received, where their life was ended, and that didn't happen. So we're going to go and we're going to look at one of those victim statements that was just unbelievably powerful to me, and it was one that stood out because it was different. It was different from the others because there were so many people that had just so much hatred in their heart, and just the devastation had just is consuming them, right? And they were just finally able to say what they haven't been able to say all along, and realizing that every day that they've been in court during this trial, that they haven't even been allowed to wear a pin in remembrance of their child. They haven't been allowed to wear their child's favorite color. They haven't been allowed to say, facial expressions, anything, at the risk of having a mistrial. And they've lived in this, tight, it's a restrictive bubble they've had to sit in. They want so badly to participate in this, and they've obeyed all the way through this, every single rule. Even one parent wouldn't even be there in court as much as he wanted to, because he couldn't risk putting the other families at risk of a mistrial by his actions. Just amazing. Chandra, sliding late, better late than never. We're glad you're here. Thank you. We're just talking about going over from yesterday, a highlight from the Parkland Shooter trial. Let me get that queued up here. Actually, it's just a few minutes long. We're going to watch the whole thing from start to finish, and I will say there is one strong word in here at the end. And for those who saw that yesterday, I commented, I don't use this word myself. It's the bomb as far as his 4-letter words go. And I commented after that I've never heard it used so eloquently. And I'm not a fan of this type of language, but when you hear it, you might understand what I mean. So let me get this set up while I'm talking here. That's going to be right here. And we'll just go ahead and kick it off here and start. So, okay. This is the girl who'll be speaking on behalf of Joaquin.
Hi. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Please state your full name for the record.
Victoria Gonzalez, Gonzalez.
Thank you. State whenever you're ready.
Ms. Gonzalez, are you here today to give a statement regarding Joaquin Oliver?
Yes.
Would you please do so?
Before I open this, I am wearing Joaquin's t-shirt that he wore the night before you killed him. And it says, if you can't read Spanish, it says, you with bullets, I with balls. And I just want to start with that. This is my protection. This is Joaquin with me. Crazy enough, he knew what was coming. I don't know if you remember me, but we did have a class together the year before hell broke loose. I remember where you sat, in the row next to me, a couple seats behind me, and I remember Mr. Guard going around the room, and every day we'd give a different answer from the homework the night before. He wanted to make sure who had it. I remember every day when he would get to you, I was crossing my fingers under my desk, thinking, man, I hope he has it today. Man, I hope he's doing something good for himself. Man, I hope that he's succeeding. I was rooting for you. Silently, in my desk, you had no idea who I was, and I was rooting for you because I felt like you needed someone or you needed something, and I could feel that, I felt how alone you might have felt. Maybe I'm wrong. My softness has been my protection, and maybe it's hurt me, but I've empathized with you, and I've blamed society for creating the hatred in you, and I can't anymore. So I stand here to say that I do blame you, not you alone, but definitely you. Definitely, a lot of people failed. After that class, every single day I met Joaquin after school. And I thought about you, and I didn't even know you, and I was like thinking about how you could have been suffering. Little did I know, it was just foreshadowing. But now I'm very alone, and I'm very isolated, and I can't make friends, and I can't build relationships because I'm looking over my shoulder. Even emotionally, I can't feel safe. I can't trust people to take care of me. I'm alone all the time. I can't let someone love me. I ask for others to understand this pain. But how? How can anyone understand this pain? Why do I understand this pain? Why? Because of you. How can someone love a person who's afraid of life? That's how I feel. But Joaquin loved me for all of my flaws, for everything. He saw the capacity to grow. He saw that my brokenness made me whole, if that will make sense. He saw light shining through the cracks. But nobody else from then forward is allowed to love me like that. I won't let them. I don't have friends. I don't make them. Maybe people think that we're friends, but I don't feel safe. And that's because of you. But I do want to say, I wish that you met Joaquin. I wish that you met Joaquin, because he would have been your friend. He would have extended a hand to you. He would have loved you. And I say that, and whoever's going to be upset with me is going to be upset with me, but he would have loved you as a human being, because you are a human being, and I'm going to say that. And I know a lot of people won't say that, but you are a real-life human being standing right in front of me. You're not some character out of a book like a lot of people like to think that this is a fantasy, but you're a real person. And I'm sorry that you never saw the love that the world is capable of giving. That's something I've wanted to say to you from the day that this happened. Because the most painful part of this is knowing that the world holds so much hatred that can be funneled into one human being. Like, there is so much hate in your body. And I'm sorry for that. I would have wished you the love that I experienced before you led me to the experience of sitting in this courtroom and listening to a medical examiner tell me that my best friend's head was only held together by the skin of his scalp after you were done with him. That it was like a cherry bomb, quoted, like a cherry bomb went off in his skull. And I will live with that. And you will live with that in a different way. And I won't have to worry if you celebrate it or whatever you do with it. But the point is, I would have wished love for you. I would have. And I want to, because that's who I am, but I can't. And I'm sorry that your heart knows nothing of warmth. I would have wished that for you, and I will say that again. My justice does not lie in knowing if you live or if you die. My justice lives in knowing that I loved, because I experienced a love that a lot of people go their whole lifetimes without experiencing. Joaquin loved me entirely with his whole being, and I choose love. So in the end, I think that I win. I think that I win because I will continue my life honoring something that people believe is a fairy tale. And it's not. This whole thing is so real life. The love that Joaquin gifted me will last my lifetime. It will last many lifetimes. And I'm proud to stand here and say that. And you showed me the importance of love. And that I need to celebrate it. And that I need to preach it. And that I need to wake up every day and make someone smile. So that they don't go through the world feeling like you did or you do. I don't wish that for anyone. And I wish that it didn't bring you to what you did. I wish that you had more love in your heart. And I want to say that. No matter who will hate me for it. I wish that you had love in your heart. I wish that. And on behalf of Joaquin, you may have taken my body, and for that, fuck you, but you cannot take my love. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you.
It takes my breath away every time, and it makes my eyes sweaty too. Just unbelievable emotion and restraint and power, and when it cut, it didn't show the convicted murderer there very much, but in what we did see of him, you saw him take a deep, ragged breath because she reached him. Like nobody else had in any other statement. Okay, so while I compose myself again, we want to try to shift gears. This case is behind us, and all the horribleness that it had on it. But at the same time, we have these families' statements, and this statement that we just played there, to look back at and see that there is still good in the world. There are people who will go about and make other people's lives better as a result of their loss. And it was amazing. So yes, I see a lot of comments about that as well. It was unbelievable. I hope you got to see that as it happened. If not, this is the next best thing. But I mean, just talking to my wife about this was, you watch her give her testimony or her statement, right between a lot of adults, right? A lot of people who are very angry and justifiably so. And that was my sentiment basically. But she handled it differently. And I think everyone has their right to handle their grief the way they feel best, right? I don't have the right to tell them that they should do it differently, especially having not walked in their shoes. But I think the way she's handling it for her, this will be a huge strength, not a hole to dig out of, but a mountain that she's built character on, and will be amazing. Will carry her far. Anyway, so let's change pace just a little bit. We're going to let's switch over to this camera right here. We're going to play a voicemail we got, actually from Canada, from JB, and I realized looking at my looking at the metrics of what, when I get off the video, it's fun to look down and see how many people were there and how many comments there were and things like that. And I noticed that the vast majority of you are not subscribers, and that's great. That's fine. You don't have to subscribe. I'm glad I can be here for you. I'm glad you're here. I see the vast majority of you have been here before and are coming back, which makes me feel good, because that means there's probably something here you like or intrigues you or is interesting, and I hope to still offer that. But did get a voicemail from a gentleman we have not seen in chat, and we probably won't see in chat. His name is JB up in Canada. He happens to be a Maples fan, Toronto Maple Leaf fan. So a big shout out to them. I know I talked briefly about hockey, and so I include that. I'm going to play this message because he says some nice things about us as well as a community. So we'll give this a quick play here.
Hi, recovery addict. I'm just a guy, JB from Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, and I'm a Leafs fan, and I've been watching you now for around 10 days, and your show is the best, and I love all the people that you chat with. I don't know how to do any of that, but I watch you on my TV on YouTube, and you are all the best, and I really, really enjoy your show now, so I look forward every day. But thank you, and I am having really, it's very nice, and everyone is very nice people, and I thank you, and I hope to keep watching. Okay, but I don't know how to chat or do all that stuff. I'm an old, so I don't know any of that. But keep up the good work, and we'll talk soon.
So thank you, JB. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're able to dial in and leave a message. I do appreciate it. For those that aren't participating in chat, you're missing out a little bit, JB. I'm glad I can sort of include you. If you don't know how, by reading out some of these chats and responding. Let me just say that chat is amazing. This group, this community is just some really, really cool people and really insightful and great questions. So just a shout out there, and thank you very much for the message. If you do want to leave a message or text me a question or something like that, you can do that at the burner phone number. You can give that a call or text, and I'll be able to review that and hopefully include it on the air here and get your question asked or answered. So thank you, Abby, for putting that out as well. Let's talk about a couple other things. First of all, something crime related. Let's go back here so you can see me. Oh, not that. That was a tape video. Right here. How about that? I was going through my kids' Halloween candy, as every parent should do. Not necessarily for safety reasons, but because parent taxes is a real thing, and we should collect whatever taxes we need to at that time, just so the kids understand how life goes, and they get prepared to pay taxes when they get older. But I found these. Let's see if I can get it focused here. candy sticks. It's got Superman on it, right? I'm thinking, what in the world is this, right? Check this out. I open this up. This is, handed out to kids at Halloween. And you've got like a mini joint, a mini cigarette. Okay, I can't think of what else this would look like. Okay, I mean, that's exactly how it's intended to be used. I'm like, what company is out there advertising fake cigarettes to our kids? And it's just raw sugar. I mean, there's taste-wise, it's garbage. It's awful. But not a big fan of that. The print is so small, I can't tell what company makes this. But guys, really, I mean, you don't have to go there. So I wanted to say that. That's just me. Alexa says. Says, I love those. They used to be the fake cigarettes. They taste so good. They're from the dollar store, says, well, Mama. That's funny. A couple of you also do the parent tax. It's a real thing, and luckily, as a tax collector, it's my duty to collect the best of the best, and so I do enjoy a little bit of that. And it's great to have 6 kids because those taxes add up. But yeah, they have been around for years. I think I remember them as a kid. I just don't remember having them. I mean, I don't think it's like something new. But I'm in the minority. They're sugar. They're just pure sugar. Alexis, I can't stand it. It's like eating a sugar cube, right? But TW says, recovery addict, my wife said the reason your channel is doing so well is because of your voice. She said it's a voice from the past that is comforting and safe. TW's wife, thank you. I appreciate the comment. I think it's doing well because of you guys. But I'll keep using my voice if that's what she wants to hear. Let's see. We got a couple questions from other people here. Let's tell you what we're going to go over for the rest of this morning. It's not going to be a long show, and I will tell you I'm not planning on live streaming anything during the day today. We do have a couple trials in progress. Specifically, I think the extreme skier case is going on, but it's just a hard one for me to follow live with video because the video is poor. The video, the cameraman, literally, he's committing a crime every time he goes live from that courtroom because the camera is not straight. Okay, and maybe my OCD showing, but the camera's tripod is crooked. And so everything, if he turns the right direction, it sort of looks right, but then as he pans, everything sort of leans because the tripod's crooked. And then he doesn't do his what's called a color balance or a white balance. And so everything has like a blue tint or a yellow tint to it. And it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me as a cameraman. I'm like, come on, please, just, focus, white balance, level your camera, and I'll be happy. But the fourth thing is the audio is awful. It's not a very good system they've tied into, and it's just like, I can't watch it live. I apologize. If something happens, we'll look back on it, and I'll pull out a clip that we can watch. But for that reason, I'm probably not going to go live today. But we do have a couple other things to talk about. Now that the Parkland trial is over, there are a couple other trials in the works, and really it's slating to be a busy January is what it comes down to. I'm reading a couple of comments. I think apparently they're British. The candies are British. Okay, but let's talk about, I'm going to try to stay focused. I really am. I'm not going to look at chat for just a minute. So let's do the first update. We've got the Oxford High School shooter. Okay, this is Ethan Crumbley. He pled guilty a couple weeks ago to all charges against him, even without a plea agreement, right? So he voluntarily pled guilty to everything, even the terrorism charge and everything. And the interesting thing about this case is as he pled guilty, he made some statements in court, including something to the effect that he gave his dad the money to buy the gun, and his dad bought the gun for him, which is what's called a straw purchase. It's a big no-no. It's a big no-no. You don't buy a gun for somebody else because they aren't legally able to. There's some responsibility there that is part of why Ethan's parents are now charged with 4 counts of manslaughter in this case. So even though Ethan pled guilty, his parents are still going to go ahead with their trial, and that they've had a couple hearings and stuff there. But their jury selection starts January 17th on that trial. And it's moving forward. But Ethan's most likely going to be taking the stand against his parents, testifying that contrary to what the dad said, he bought the gun for the son, and the dad had originally said the gun was, stolen, reported it stolen. The Ethan's going to say otherwise. So that'll be interesting to see that happen. So that's one case. We also have in Iowa a high school Spanish teacher, and this Spanish teacher is dead. 2 of her teenage students are charged with her murder. And one of the motives they're looking at is basically that they were upset about a bad grade that the Spanish teacher had given them, and it was bringing down their GPA. And for some reason, they thought that killing her would make it better. I don't know. But the 2 teens have pled not guilty. They're seeking to have their case moved back to juvenile court. And the other day we had a hearing where the defense was moving to have some of the evidence that was collected struck from, admissibility, excluded from the trial. So some of the evidence they want excluded specifically was the interview the police did with this 16-year-old murderer. Well, in Iowa, they say based on the nature of the crime, they can treat him as an adult. And they went through the process. They had a parent's signature at one point to proceed, but he was not represented he wasn't with his parents. He didn't have a lawyer, even though he had waived his rights verbally in the interview. And they're basically saying that wasn't a proper interview, that the process they went wasn't correct. And because of that, all the information they got, including the information that led to a search warrant that then turned up even further incriminating evidence, should be thrown out. So if they can get this interview thrown out, it basically throws out the Snapchats and everything on the phone and all this other information they got because of this interview, which really would make it a very different case than what it is. So yesterday we saw that defendant's mom on the stand testifying to the effect that she had said to stop the interview and she hadn't given permission to move forward and that it continued. And so we'll see where that goes on that. But that's going to be moving forward as well. Might be a little bit later on that one. So another crazy case out of Florida is the suitcase killer, the suitcase murder, where we've got Sarah Boone and her boyfriend George had a very rough. How do I say this? They had a lot of domestic disputes. Their house was not new to the police. They had been called before. They had been in court before, with charges against each other because of abuse, and just it was bad. It was a bad situation, and even though in the interview Sarah says that their relationship was good and everything was on the up and up, she's charged with murdering George by zipping him into a suitcase and leaving him there. Now, she says it was a game gone wrong. She says we were playing hide and seek. I left a little opening so he could unzip it. And, it was ha, 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 I'm going to go upstairs. He's going to get out and he's going to come upstairs and join me. And half an hour later, he still hasn't come upstairs. She just goes to sleep. And the morning, almost afternoon, almost noon the next morning when she gets up, she's like, oh, he must be downstairs on the computer looking for jobs. He's not. An hour later, she goes down and checks on him, and he's still in the suitcase, and he's dead. And she says she pulled him out and tried to stretch him out and tried to do CPR, and then instead of calling the police, she calls her ex-husband, and he has her call the police, and it gets crazy there. And some little, those little alarm bells where your spidey sense is tingling. It's like something's not right here. Well, those go off like for everybody who watches us. Like that's not right. What she's doing isn't right. And sure enough, her story starts changing a little bit. It sounds a little concocted in parts, very, very pre-planned what she wanted to say. But she's not saying she didn't put him in the suitcase. All she's saying is that she didn't mean for him to die. She didn't intend for there to be, any harm to him. And she's like, I had no idea that zipping someone in a suitcase could cause death, really. But the hardest thing she'll have to overcome in this trial is the evidence that she created herself when she filmed George struggling to get out of the suitcase and begging for his life and begging, saying, I can't breathe, Sarah, let me out. And she filmed him and she's mocking and swearing at him and saying, this is how I feel when you cheat on me, and this is how I feel when you choke me, type thing. That's going to be hard to explain, but in the interview, she's like, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember these videos. I don't, it's just deer in the headlights type look. So yeah, that phone video is going to be really tough, Pauline, for her to overcome. There's other inconsistencies. Laura says to Patty, like the fact that she says, "Oh, we weren't drinking." There's maybe one glass type thing, but there were 2 bottles of wine that were empty. And then after she's said over and over that she wasn't drunk and she wasn't drinking, once she's confronted with all this evidence, she says, "I'm blaming it on the wine," basically saying it must have been the drink. But the last post says, "Sarah is a bad girl." There are allegations of we'll get into this in just a second, Anthony. There are allegations that in the past there was a time that she zipped her son in a suitcase, and that the Child Protective Services was called over it. If there's truth to that allegation, yeah, that's probably going to pop up in court as well. But yeah, so Anthony says, "Wait, how did he get in the suitcase?" Well, Anthony, first of all, it was a big suitcase, and he was a small man, so size-wise, it worked. But also, they were supposed to be playing games. They were outside. They were chilling on the back porch, and then she said, "Hey, how about we go inside and play a game? Let's work on a puzzle." And so they came inside, worked on a puzzle. And she says, "How about we, we'll listen to some music." So they listened to some music. She's like, "How about we play hide and seek?" "Okay, how about you get in the suitcase?" Zip, see ya. And then once he was in the suitcase, apparently, according to the prosecution, that's when she said, "Ha, gotcha, and you're going to stay there." But she did say she wasn't drunk, but also that she was drunk. So one of those is going to be true, and one of them will be false. We just don't know which one she's going to stick with on her defense. And Laura says, "I can honestly say that's one of the wonkiest cases." It is. It's bad. Last poet. Here's what I think. Either he went willingly, thinking it was a game and thinking it would be funny, and drink might have been involved. I mean, if you've ever watched YouTube videos of people thinking they can jump off their roof into the pool over like a 10-foot gap, and they don't make it, drink was involved. They made a poor decision and thought this would be fun when it really won't be fun. That could be it. Or the autopsy showed that he had several injuries, like blunt force type injuries, and it's possible that those might have occurred before and made it able for her to put him in the suitcase if he was, like, say, unconscious or something. Sophistic History says Sarah Boone is Jodi Arias 2.0. Yeah, it's going to be bizarre. It's going to be crazy, and the side, the Jodi Arias side that we see already as far as the similarities go, is the weird connection between her and her lawyer. But in this case, Sarah Boone has gone through 6 public defenders. This is her 6th public defender, and it's bizarre. Some of them just said, "Look, Judge, I cannot work with her. I can't tell you why. I just cannot do this." And others have said, I'd be happy to defend her if I hadn't previously defended George against her in a previous case. And granted, yeah, you're off. That works. And other people say, like, I would, but I defended one of the witnesses. And so I'm sort of biased in this case and all this. But this last public defender she has, I think his name is Bankowitz or something like that. She wrote a letter to the judge recently, and she wrote a letter to the lawyer and copied the judge and was like, "Hey, Mr. Lawyer, why won't you return my phone calls? Why won't you take my phone calls when I call you every day? Why won't you talk to me? Why don't you tell me, give me updates? What's happened? This time you've been my lawyer, we've only spoke 3 times. These are the dates, and this is for how long we spoke. And this is, what it was. And, I need to know what to prepare for." So she's basically accusing him of neglecting her as a client, failing to be responsive, which is intriguing because Mr. Bankowitz previously has been publicly reprimanded as a lawyer for doing exactly that, for failing to be responsive to a client, and even charged a fine, ordered to pay a fine for it. And he's also been reprimanded for, a tax issue where he failed to pay taxes on his employees' wages. So with that on the books, and with the trial slated it was going to start Monday, right? It was going to be November 7th. But now the lawyer, her lawyer, the public defender, says, "I need more time." And the judge said, "Okay, I'll grant it. We're going to give you till January 30th before the start." But the question is, will he find a reason to be excused from the case? Or will Sarah raise enough complaints about him that he will get excused from the case? Because they don't want to have a mistrial because of, or an appeal because of inadequate defense. And if this guy is not providing that proper time and effort into the case, that's an opportunity for that. She does seem very needy, Abby. At the very end of the letter to the lawyer, the one where she says, "Hey, why won't you answer my calls? You're completely ignoring me." She goes off on this little creepy tangent. She's like, "Hey, I don't think it's coincidence that we're together." I'm like, first of all, they're not together. They're like forced to work together, but that's it. But she's like, "I don't think it's coincidence that we're together. God brought us together. I think there's a higher purpose. I can't wait to see where this goes," type thing. Almost like it's like, "I'm so glad we're dating." Type feel to it. I'm like, do. It gets weird. It really does get weird. So we'll see that as well. And if it continues, if this lawyer does stick with it, it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of their relationship play out in the courtroom. Because I don't think the lawyer is returning any of the affection that Sarah might think that he is giving her. But that'll be fascinating. Let's see. Laura says, "I heard that at one point during the night she pushed the suitcase down the stairs. The game began upstairs in one story and then ended up downstairs in the next afternoon, but she wasn't drunk." Right, Laura, we don't know. That might be where those blunt force injuries to George occurred, if she pushed him down the stairs. We know that the suitcase started out upstairs, that it was normally kept upstairs, but she has a story or a reason, alibi for why it would be downstairs, which I'm not sure if the evidence will support, but we'll see. That'll come out in trial, I'm sure. Thank you for covering Boone. Thank you for covering Boone. Is no Jodi Arias. No one is Jodi Arias. Did Arias have a public defender? Yeah, that was a little different with Baez. Is that how you say his name? That was a little bit different. But wow, what a trial. Colette Cat, LOL. Nice to speak to you. Social media is amazing at times. Take care. Glad you guys can connect here. Churchy says it's quite incriminating that in one video the suitcase is right side up and the next one it's upside down, zip facing the floor. Correct. And in none of the videos can you see this several finger wide gap she says she left in the zipper where he could wiggle his fingers out and get out. And in fact, in the interview when the police are talking to her about that, they bring up the fact that the zipper was sort of broken and it was difficult to open. And she had to use like a paper clip because the zipper pull, the piece you grab and pull, had broken off, and so it had a little paper clip on there. It was supposed to help do that. But Trish said, "Laura, the neighbor heard the suitcase going down the stairs. He said it was the loudest noise he's ever heard from them." And that's going to be, we're going to hear from the neighbors. We're going to hear from the neighbors that say they fought all the time. They yelled all the time. Barb says, "Drives me nuts when people compare defendants." I'm sorry, Barb. It's hard not to do. Sometimes, but everyone is different. Every situation is different. Just sometimes we see similarities that'll be like, that's fascinating that these similarities are arising. But I'll try not to do it. Barb Murray says, "I'm 115 pounds. I could drag that suitcase." Right. The suitcase did flip. Who was it that said that? It was upside down one time and right side up on the other. And the videos were 10 minutes apart with him struggling to get out the whole time. But yeah, Patty says, "She is really different. I was sucked in when I saw the body cam footage and couldn't stop watching after that." And I forgot who it was. One of you corrected me. I spoke earlier about this with Sarah Boone, and I spoke about Sarah Boone earlier, I should say. And I said that the body cam was the arrest footage, and I completely misspoke. She was not arrested at the time that the fire department was there at the house, at the scene, and the police spoke to her. She was questioned, and then she was invited to the courthouse at a later date. She came to the courthouse of her own free will and was interviewed there, and that's where she had just the bizarre questions, behavior. She was confronted with some of the things that didn't quite add up, and in the end, they told her to stand up and face the wall, put her hands behind her back, and she felt tricked at that point. She felt tricked to come down there, and that was when she was arrested. So the video we see, or the pictures we see of her being led out of the building and into the sheriff's squad car, that happened after her interrogation. That was when she was arrested. So thank you for correcting me on that. The recovered video she took with her phone is going to get her convicted. I believe so. And she was asking in the interview, when do I get my phone back? When do I get my phone back? She knew there was something on there that that they would be very interested in. Barb, that was they're not talking about it much anymore, but it did draw in a lot of attention just for how bizarre it was and the behavior and the mannerisms. I mean, if you ever want to really get into body language analysis and things like that was the case to do it on, for sure. Laura says, I will say hubby and I used to dare each other to do... Where's this going, Laura? Can I read the rest of it? Used to dare each other to do stupid things. At one point, he rode a box down the stairs. We're bored. He's at work right now. I've done stupid things as well, but I'm past the point of riding a box down the stairs. I don't think I would be able to walk afterwards. Let's see. Reviewer, when does Brooks' sentencing start back? Does that somebody want to answer that for a reviewer for him? True Celtic, sure, you can share this. It's not a problem. Appreciate it. Appreciate asking too. Let's see. What was the immediate cause of death as per medical examiner? Asphyxiation, cardiac arrest, internal hemorrhage, cranial injury. We'll find out. I know there was some information in the interview that was brought out, but they did some further tests. I don't think we have all the information released. Okay, so Chopper was taking the question. You guys are so smart on this. When it comes to Brooks, the 15th, there's actually an earlier date that we might see him, and that's going to be on the 11th, because the 11th, the judge has said, I need a list, right? I need a list of all the people who will be speaking for you and their names, because some of them will be dialing over Zoom. And she wants to sort of line up that, and on the technical side, line up who's going to be on there so that when people enter the room, she knows who to admit. And quite frankly, this is, if the Zoom information gets out, this could be turned into a circus, because so many people know the names of who might likely speak for them because they know who their family members are. It's been in the news. And if they try to connect using that Zoom information and that other person's name, they basically have free access to the courtroom where they can just shout whatever they want over the live feed. And so it's, yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, so yes, you're correct. When it comes to Daryl Brooks, the 15th and 16th is when we're going to have the witness statements in that trial. And it will probably have some very similar statements to what we saw in the Parkland Shooter trial in the last 2 days. She needs everyone speaking for him. Who's that? He said 20. He said he'll have at least 20 people speaking, which is funny because the time, I don't think he even realized that there's a time for people to speak, right? I don't think he had put that together. But from the time he was sentenced, or not sentenced, but from the time he was, the verdict was read and he left the courtroom, to when he was in front of the judge talking about having 20 people speak for him, he had been on suicide watch the entire time and had not been given any phone call privileges. So I don't know who he spoke to or how he figured out that he would have 20, but I think he needs to redo his math because that number will not be nearly so high. Yeah. His mom said she doesn't want to be any part of it. She might change her mind. We saw people in the Parkland trial, obviously on the victim side, changed their mind even at the last minute, and up until yesterday or up until 2 days ago, they were saying, I'm not going to speak, and then they changed their mind. So she might still be there. There's still an opportunity. I heard there was a plea offered for 10 years in the Boone case. Barb, I don't know if it was 10 years. There was a plea offered, and it was presented to his original defense. He is saying that they never told him about it, which I don't believe. The original defense seems to have done their work and done it properly. But I just can't believe DB, really. I mean, where's his credibility? Brooks will have to speak for him will be Donald Duck, Scooby-Doo, Dora the Explorer, and Mickey Mouse, and a few others. Yeah, really, they seem to be imaginary right now. I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone standing up and speaking for him yet, other than his mom. But she said she doesn't want to be there. He didn't mean to murder 6 people at one time and injure 67 more. You can see why he ended up like he did, right? Lee here says, "G'day, I thought you played hide and seek by hiding so that the other person doesn't know where you are. This chick needs to rethink what game they were playing." He thinks, yeah, I've always thought, I guess we've been playing it wrong, Lee. That's what it was. We've been playing it wrong. You're supposed to hide the people and then come back and look for them. Alex says witnesses worked out so well for him. Alex, that was every witness he called turned out to be a state's witness. There was not a single shred of evidence they presented in his defense, and all they did was confirm his guilt and completely backfire. And the defense or the prosecution did such a great job doing that every time he brought somebody in. Churchy says, "Did you hear that Judge Darrow has received gift baskets and spa vouchers from around the world? They're holding them for her until the case is done." I believe it. I've told you, as soon as my mug arrives, I think I might mail her one. One of the mugs we have that says "Objection overruled, grounds" on one side. I just think she might find that funny, but that'd be good. I'm glad people are recognizing her. She was so patient. She did so well. Maybe some of his jailhouse friends, maybe his jailhouse lawyer, the one who told him to be a sovereign citizen and try that defense, maybe he's going to speak for him. And perhaps we'll finally hear address the matter of subject matter jurisdiction. CD Man says, "I honestly don't believe DB will have more than 5 people speak for him and say he needs more time for the other 15. Yeah, they're still traveling. So what's the next trial coming up soon? We've got a couple, Carly. I'm going to be watching the extreme skier trial out of New Mexico. This is Dean Cummings. He's charged with murder. He's saying it's self-defense. That there was an argument that escalated, and at one point the person who died, I forget his name just off the top of my head, but he says that guy sprayed some sort of chemical in his face, some sort of acid, and that he fired his AR-15 10 times in self-defense, striking him twice and killing him. And then he there's some weird things, like he took an hour to tell the police who he was, and so he's like from withholding an identity charge, and he moved some evidence, and so there's some charges around there. But even with those charges and the strange things that happened, I'm really up in the air. And I was talking briefly with Matthew, our resident lawyer here, Matthew Harris, about this, and he says it really could go either way. And I agree. Right now, we don't have enough evidence presented to really say. It's sort of like when you're watching football, right? And a play happens, and that goes to replay, and there's no good angle on it. I think that's what we're going to have on this case with Dean Cummings, where the information we have is very limited. We don't have body cam video because the police department, all their body cams were broken and had been for years. We've got spotty audio recordings. We don't have the computer dispatch records because their system wasn't functioning, or it wasn't in place at the time. It's just it's a lot of just basically a couple people's memory type thing. One of the officers doesn't work for the department anymore and seems to not have a lot of information. It's weird, but because of that, because there isn't a lot of information, I think that he might win on his defense and have the jury side with him that it was self-defense. Sorry, my iPad is dying, and if it dies, then the stream dies too. So there we go. Let's plug it in. Let's see. The prosecutors spent 2 days not proving anything against Cummings, says Charlie Peterson. They need to do more to prove their case. I agree. There's no slam dunk evidence they've produced that presented that would make me really say, hey, yeah, that's the action of a guilty person. Yeah, luckily, says Floyd, luckily he had his AR with him and out in the middle of nowhere at some stranger's house, right? Yeah, just luck of the draw. I just happened to have a loaded firearm, assault rifle with me that I was able to pull up just in self-defense. There are some other factors when you look at Dean Cummings' life that he got in a lot of arguments with people. He's first of all, he's an extreme skier, right? That's why we know him. He's not only just been performing at the highest levels of sport in this insane world of extreme skiing, but he also started a business up in Alaska, flying people in helicopters to the top of mountains, letting them jump out and ski down this incredibly remote, untouched, pristine wilderness area. And he's had court cases involving that, and he's got some belief that people are trying to use like nanobots and 5G to control people, and it's sort of like a conspiracy theory thing. And we'll find out more about that as well. But Churchy says the first officer who testifies was slaughtered by the defense, 100%. It did not go well for him, and the defense lawyer is brutal. She is so good at setting up traps and just leading people to where she wants them to go. And the police officer just was like a deer in the headlights. It just walked right into it. Barb Murray, going back to DB, says the judge could be lenient because he's been so nice to her and the prosecution and the victims. Barb, he has been nice, and he's also been, literally scared her to death and had her leave the courtroom because of just the way he was looking at her. So she's received the full DB treatment, and I don't think she's a fan. I don't think so. Will anyone know when and where Cruz gets moved to? Colette, it should have happened yesterday, and I don't know which prison he will go to, but his home away from home started yesterday. We'll probably hear about it in the news here shortly about where he goes. Delilah talking about Gene Cummings says it might be different out there where he lives. I don't know. Are there bears? I might keep a gun too. Well, he wasn't up in Alaska when this happened. This is in New Mexico, right? And I guess New Mexico might have some wildlife like that. It's not really known as a state that has a whole bunch of large wildlife that you need an AR for. You're probably more likely to be bitten by a snake there than attacked by a moose or a bear. But Fort Brooks, Wisconsin, is hell somewhere. Fort Brooks is a reference to, I think, TW, I think you're making a reference to the time that Daryl Brooks made a fort out of his defense information boxes and hid behind them from the judge. Bella says, I would really like to write DB a letter. Bella, what would you tell him? Would you just tell him how beautiful it is to be out here free in the sunshine? Or do you think that there was a mistrial in some way? New Mexico is like a desert. Nothing is there. They've got a variety. They have ski resorts. They have, most of it is desert, but it is they've got some diverse landscape as well, some mountains and everything. Recovery addict. Is it normal protocol to put someone on suicide watch after a guilty verdict, or was DB suicidal? I believe DB had said that he was told it was protocol, but he also said he was told he was wearing shock shackles, which proved to not be the case. So I don't know if they saw something in his behavior, or if it was protocol there. Obviously, the jail would not want him to harm himself right before sentencing. Their job is to protect him, keep him safe, and also keep him confined. And so I think they did what they thought was best. Barb Murray says, I hope the sentencing date works for Daryl Brooks. Really, when the judge was doing the calendaring, she's like, talking to the prosecution, scheduling, saying, hey, the judge is like, well, I've got this on this date, this on that date. The prosecution says, well, we'd really like it to have the sentencing prior to the anniversary of the event. And they're going back and forth. And Daryl Brooks is like, hey, include me in that conversation because I've got things too, right? I'm busy. And the judge is like, what's happening? He's like, well, I've got all these other charges I'm facing up in Milwaukee for starters, and I've got to be to court there. So I got to sort out my defense team and everything. And it's like, oh, man. Debbie, this morning, we're not going to be watching anything live. We do have an extreme skier case out of New Mexico today. That's pretty much the only thing that's happening live that is really that I want to follow. I think there's is Parkland still going on? But I wasn't following the Parkland murders. So we could talk about that, but I wasn't planning on going live today for that one. True Celtic Mutt says, I'm starting a give, send, go to get Fort Brooks some Tinker Toys to improve his fort. Chandra says, recovery addict, will defendant skier be allowed to wear his tinfoil hat during the trial? No, but have you seen the mullet, the hair? It might go well with a tinfoil hat. He looks great. Yeah, Barb. Hey, Debbie, welcome. I keep clicking on the wrong chat. What happens is I go to click right as somebody else types something, and it scrolls underneath my mouse. So I apologize for flashing up a chat just for half a second because I clicked on the wrong one. Let's see. Firefly says, totally love that the judge froze, this is the Parkland trial, totally love that the judge froze Cruz's commissary account and give the money, and the money will not go for his use. Right, so in addition to the 34 consecutive life sentences, right, without the possibility of parole, I guess some of them had the possibility of parole, but several of them don't. So he's not getting out of prison in any which way. Although some of the charges might, before he dies, actually expire. His sentence will expire. He's not getting out of prison because of all the other charges. But the judge did freeze his commissary account, saying any money you earn at whatever job you're doing in prison, where you're stamping license plates or shoveling out soup at the dinner line, whatever it is, that's going to be garnished. And now I believe, my understanding is they can't take all of it, but they can take, a big portion of it. And even if it's only $4 a week that he's earning, that's going to be taken from him. So we won't be able to buy all the little niceties that are sold at the prison commissary, the extra pads of paper and journals and books or whatever it is that, the nicer toothbrush. I don't know. But he won't be able to buy that. And if people send him money, which remarkably people do send money to these convicted killers, they have a fan club, but if people send money, that also doesn't go to him. So any money he gets or any of his representatives get from selling selling the rights to his life story type thing, if they want to make a movie, that money, it all goes to the defendants. So he will not profit in any way from this. And he's also ordered to pay restitution costs. So anything he has right now, I believe he had some life insurance money that came to him. That also will probably all be taken away. Great question, great comment there, Fly. Let's see. Delilah says, I cannot get into a Pike. You can never hear anything, so what's the point of showing it? Yeah, it's a rough one to watch. It's just it's not set up really for remote participation as far as following along what's happening. It is devastating, the story. Jennifer, you're 100% correct. That how many people were murdered so that one guy could get custody of his daughter, which he got, like 8-year-old daughter, but he murdered all these other people just to make that happen. And it's bizarre. Yeah. Mr. B, the mullet seems to be making a comeback. It didn't look so good the first time. I was never a fan. Although I am in need of a haircut right now. I need it so bad that it's probably could be included on my weight loss program. But yeah, I've never had the mullet look. Let's see. Looks like he doesn't use soap. I think the defense advised him not to comb his hair. Barbara, you talking about Cruz? I do think the defense probably helped him with his look to make it help his case. And that's, I think that's why that came from. Pauline says, did you hear he was left an inheritance from his mother? Yeah, I heard it was like $400,000. Or didn't he have another sibling that was split with? So it was like $800,000 and they each got $400,000 or something like that. But yeah, there was a fair amount of money that I believe the judge will effectively be taking and giving to the victims' families. And that restitution, we will have, I guess, one more hearing where he'll probably be in court because there is a restitution hearing. The judge, in her ordered restitution, but said it would be decided at a future time. So we'll have to wait to find out exactly what it is, but it's going to be huge. It will be an amount that he will never be able to repay, and selling the rights to his story will not cover. Abby says, it amazes me that people think they will get away with murder. Yeah, criminals, for the most part, are not smart. Now, there are some of them that are very crafty and try to think it through, but there's so much. There's so much to have to take in and think about and be aware of at all times when committing a crime, to try to hide tracks and not leave evidence and have a successful alibi and all this. The average mind cannot do it. A team of people would be needed, and the more people you involve, the harder it is to hide evidence. I'm not giving you advice or anything. I'm just saying that, yeah, it's one that you think you get away with it, and you really can't, except in rare cases. Tag 100%. That's it's not pretty. Delilah, what I've seen of it, a woman shot in the face and survived. He's on trial for murder of his ex-girlfriend or something as a kid. Which, I want to see Delilah. Delilah's talking about Chopper. Chopper's talking about, there's a trial on right now with Chad Absher. Is it worth looking at? It doesn't sound, I mean, I'd love it if the victim survived, but we might take a look at that. I might take a look at it off the air and just see if it's something we want to follow. So they will take his money, even though what he did to the kids, Mr. Relaxing Vibe says. Talking about Cruz, yes, he's ordered to pay restitution to his victims. And that restitution, the amount's going to be decided later, but he has to also pay for the cost of housing him for this whole time, the 1,000 whatever days he's been in jail this, over this last four plus years. He's all those charges, all the restitution, his wages that he earns in prison, because they do get paid for the jobs they do in prison. It's a very small amount. We're not talking minimum wage. We're talking generally it's a decimal point before the first number, but per hour. But all that money would be garnished. So he would get a little bit, but not very much. CD Man says the money NC got from inheritance was used to pay for the lawyers. It probably, I'm sure it cost more than $400,000. There was in one closing statement. Was it the gentleman from New York? I forget which one it was, but he basically filed a Freedom of Information Act request right at the end. He basically said, I'm asking for a copy of all the expenses of how much this cost, how much the defense cost, how much they paid different specialists, how much, everything. I want those numbers. I want a list of who profited from this case. I want to know if, basically, it sounded like he was trying to go after, a lot like a lot of the families did with the defense lawyers themselves. He wanted to go after the people who profited from the case. Like if there was a specialist that testified that may have, had a $200,000 fee. He wants to know that and publicize that. I think that's where he's headed with that, and I believe he'll be successful in that request, the Freedom of Information Act request, especially now that the court is over, the trial is over. That is public record, and I believe that information will come out here probably within the next 30 days. Yes, I think there will be some sanctioning going on, Churchy. She says, do you think any of the Cruz defense will get sanctioned? In Florida, we were looking at the sanctioning of Bankowitz, right? The Sarah Boone public defender. And the way it works is they sort of sanction lawyers in batches, a lot like they do with police officers. They sort of discipline them all in batches, like quarterly or something like that. And so they'll say, hey, we've sanctioned these 24 lawyers for the following reasons. Here's the lawyer's name. Here's what they did. And then that will go from the circuit court. It'll go to the Supreme Court, where they'll issue a public sanctioning. Basically, they'll stamp it basically with their seal of approval, and it will go on the record. And I believe that we will see some of that from this case, especially where it comes to the flipping the bird in court. That's not okay. You can't do that. Lee here says the Adam Montgomery trial will be interesting, how they prove that one. Tell me about Adam Montgomery. Haven't followed that one. Or maybe I know it by a different name. Let's see, arrested for the murder of Harmony Montgomery in 2019. Let's see, this one's out of New Hampshire. He's 32. He's charged with 4 crimes: second-degree murder for causing Harmony's death, falsifying physical evidence for altering, destroying, concealing, or removing a body. That never looks good. Abuse of corpse for purposely and unlawfully removing, concealing, destroying the corpse, and then tampering with witness or informants for purposely attempting to induce or otherwise cause Kayla Montgomery to testify or inform falsely. Okay, so he's got a few things against him that do not look good at all. Those are tough charges to fight, and it's hard to say not guilty when you then are also charged with removing the body and destroying the evidence and everything else, because apparently he did not do it successfully. That might be something we'll look at. Let's see what else we have. Daniel Boberson says, frankly, no one likes those Cruz defense attorneys, but bottom line, in effect won for their client. They did. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, what they set out to do. So it was a win for them, but it's a hollow victory type thing, right? When you end up being hated for what you've done. And I bring this up, and I'll bring it up again. Imagine you're in court, in the same court, charged with some crime, whether it's petty or otherwise, and you have a public defender from the public defender's office, and your judge is the same judge as the Parkland trial judge. How would you feel if your public defender had been the one who was kicked off the bench and sent to the back of the room, and is now there facing that same judge with that same history behind it? How do you feel as a defendant? How can they go forward, this public defender's office and the judge working together, now that this has happened, now that all this has been said? Do they just hug and make up and say, okay, we'll see you next week, all's good, new trial, no hard feelings? I don't think so. I think people will move. I think people will transfer to other areas. I just can't see how that goes forward well. Lee here says, we don't see anything like you guys do. No cameras in courts, no police body cam stuff, never much reporting before a trial. Lee, where are you from? I forget where you said you were from. I'm curious. Here you go, Australia. I'm an Australian, and the mullet has never been out of fashion. As long as you've got the accent, though, I guess you can pull it off. Yeah, Australia is different, very, very, very different on so many fronts. My son was there for a while, a couple of years back, and really liked the country. But it's a very, very different system. Very different on the as a country on how they handle guns as well. Probably one of the stricter countries in the world about guns. I feel the judge gave him Alexis says, I feel the judge gave them plenty of opportunities to drop the issue, and they kept pestering. They did it to themselves. Yeah, they did push, I think, farther. They just like Daryl Brooks did, right? She's like, okay, just stop it. I've heard you. It's on the record. Stop it. And he kept pushing it. And in the end, I think he regrets pushing it as far as he did, where he started losing the rights to doing something he wanted to do. Barb Murray says, the lawyer that flipped the bird was essentially hurting the victims over and over. Love the mom and karma. Yeah, she was flipping off the camera. What was her excuse? Does somebody know? Was she just saying, I was, mad that the cameras were filming or something? What was she really flipping off? Was she mad at the judge? Was she mad at what the prosecution had just said? I don't know. Charlie Peterson says, saltwater crocodiles should be reason enough to own firearms. I tell you, I do not swim in water in Florida. That's why. Let's see. The defense for Cruz, says Firefly64, the defense for Cruz literally lied too much during her closing and basically told the jury they would regret a vote for death penalty and cannot be a Christian if they did vote for the death penalty. Right, but we're hearing that there probably was a holdout that never believed in the death penalty, never would have voted for it from the get-go, and managed to get on the jury even through the questioning, and held out and even convinced some other people to vote against it. Laura said she was scratching her face. That was what she went with? It was a face scratch? What do you think of the dad that said, here, let me show you how to flip someone off, and gave him the bird? And he taunted them even. He's like, yeah, you want to object to this, are you going to do it? Step up. That was interesting. Love that he wore his Sex Pistols shirt, just like I get to be here and be me. I'm not under the restraints that I was during court, which is why he never showed up, not because he didn't want to show up for his I believe daughter, but because he knew that if he had shown up and been himself and worn what he shouldn't have worn and done something, the defense would have caught on it. They would have said he was trying to sway the jury, and could have got a mistrial. So respect him so much for staying away from court when he wanted to be there, knowing that it was so important to the other families that the trial go through without a mistrial. Churchy says, miss relaxing vibes. There's a lot of love over here. Amazing people to lend an ear or a shoulder. I'm so sorry. Yeah, miss relaxing vibes. I saw a chat there. I didn't put it up on the screen. I realized you've had a very hard situation. that a lot of us can't relate to because we haven't been through. But you do have some compassionate people here who appreciate you and appreciate your vantage point and what you can offer us as someone who's been through that. But thank you for being here and for sharing that. The giggling while scratching, right? That made it a hard sell, not an ostrich. I don't normally smile and laugh at murderers while I scratch my face, but she did. Tag says, a lot of defense has been testing judges lately. The defense got testy with a judge in the Warren Clown case last week as well. What is it? Is there something in the water that these lawyers are drinking? Cindy Collins says, the attorney flipping the judge sent an email and apologized to the victims. She did send an email, but her apology was from what I heard, was the apology was, I'm sorry the cameras were on and caught it type thing. It wasn't like, I'm sorry to the victims. Totoro 73 says it was a customized Sex Pistols shirt with his son's name on it. Wonderful. Probably one of his son. I said daughter, so I apologize. Love Mr. Oliver. Yeah, love that man. He was awesome. But that is really cool. Let's see. In the UK, we don't have these gun issues because guns are not allowed here. Right? They were banned. Very, very few guns are still allowed there, and most of them have to be, a farmer. It's usually a shotgun type thing. You have to have a certain amount of land, and any firearms that are used for target practice are kept at gun clubs, kept locked up at gun clubs. That shirt was a Joaquin shirt. It said, "More sex, less pistols." Oh, I didn't realize. I thought it said, "Are you trolling me?" KXStar. I thought it said Sex Pistols, like the band, the Sex Pistols, because the Joaquin shirt said, "You have bullets, I have balls," type thing, which I think was a United National Front type shirt. But anyway, let's see here. Terry Graham says, Brooks is November 15th and 16th. Yes, we will be here for that for sure. That was Joaquin's father? Oh, Oliver. Okay, so I get mixed up. I get emotional, get a headache watching some of those because when I cry, my head hurts. But I apologize for mixing those up. Mike, why? Why did you go back there? You can't unsee that. No, a lot of us watched that as well, and it was bizarre. It was bizarro. Miss L says, congratulations, Recovery Addict. I see your subscribers increased since yesterday. Good job. Hey, thank you, guys. I appreciate everyone who does subscribe. It's wonderful to have you guys here, and I appreciate you guys coming back, all of you, whether you subscribe or not. But thank you. Angie says, morning, Scott, and everyone just got home running errands. Wonderful. Glad you were able to do that safely. Not an ostrich says, do they have Ford Escapes in the UK? Are you talking about because they don't have guns? Not an ostrich. When I was in the UK, I drove a Vauxhall Corsa. I think it was an M-Reg, for those of you that are UK. That'll tell you the time period. Jerry says, that's not true about guns in the UK. I may be wrong. It's been a lot of years. It was, 95 since I was there. And when I was there, or maybe it was 96. Yeah, 96 and 98 or so. When I was there, that was my understanding, but I never did own a gun in the UK. I never did shoot in the UK at all. So please, if I'm wrong, do correct me. Are all the states with the death penalty unanimous or a majority? Sadie, that we actually heard in the testimony yesterday, the family saying, we're going to petition Florida to go back to being a majority death penalty state, so that one holdout can't prevent justice from being delivered. So some are unanimous and some are majority. Debbie says, I don't think you'll get any money, but rather it go towards his legal debt and restitution to his victims. I think he will get some money, but when there's no benefit to him, unless he's still of that mindset that he wants to spread his name everywhere and everyone will know who he is, I don't think he'll really have the desire or purpose to try to sell his information or his rights that way. I observed many attorneys being disrespectful on both sides to both male and female judges. Yeah, that's been like this year. That's what happens. It is crazy. Apple Pie Kennedy says, good morning from Alabama. Good morning, Apple Pie. So glad you could be here with us. Lawyers in the House, Matthew Harris Law, says, I'm so sick and tired of dealing with sovereign citizens. They make the most routine case just unbearable. The problem is the logic that they bring up, the arguments that they refuse to accept truth for what it is. They try to set their own ground rules for the argument, and then with those impossible ground rules in place, they say, now let's argue using those rules. And you can't. It does not work. Manuel Oliver, the father of the Parkland victim Joaquin Oliver, wore a Sex Pistols t-shirt with the famous God Save the Queen logo that he had altered to read God Save Joaquin. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't look closely at the shirt. I thought it was just a Sex Pistols, like a concert shirt or something like that. Churchy says, I've got another case tip here for us in the, what is it, Delia Dipolito? How do you say that? Let me take a quick look here online and see what case this is. I'm not familiar with it by that name. Dipolito, let's see what she's at. Okay, accused of hiring a man to kill her husband. Her ex-lover found dead. This is also out of Florida, so we've had just a spate of Florida cases that are bizarre. This is going way back to 2009. What's bringing this up now, Churchy? Is she back? Is this on appeal? I'm just trying to think what's happening here. Or is this all settled? It looks like it was all settled. I don't see anything recent. Am I missing something there? Let me know. Let's see. Debbie says, recovery addicts, have you heard about someone doing the same as DB? The guy got shot. Other sovereign citizen stuff, is that what you're saying? Or acting as your own lawyer. I'm not sure. Both have happened, and they will continue to happen. But I'm not sure which case you're referring to specifically there, Debbie. Not long ago, someone in the UK, this is from Firefly64, not so long ago, someone from the UK drove their vehicle along that bridge, mowing down people. Anything can be used as a weapon, right? I think that's in reference to the, what do they have deadly vehicles in UK question. So yeah, it's true. They've had hammer attacks, I think, in Scotland, knife attacks. Unfortunately, the knife attacks are almost epidemic right now. But yeah. TW says, death penalty could involve convicted felons being paraded and letting Daryl Brooks drive through it. That's one way to do it. Unfortunately, our legal system is structured such that we believe if we do kill someone, it has to be in an ethical manner. And generally, the convicts that are killed or executed are killed in a much kinder fashion than the people they killed. Abby says, call recovery addicts, burn her phone, leave a message, please. If you have something to say, if you can't chat, like we had JB from Canada did this earlier. He actually left a message last night and just let us know that he was watching, that he watches on TV, can't participate in chat, but he loves hearing all the back and forth of what we talk about. So JB, big shout out to you, and I hope the Maple Leafs win as well, just for you. But if you can't chat or don't have time, or even if you're watching this after hours, if you're watching this on a replay, and you want to leave a comment about something, go ahead and shoot a text message to that number. Leave a message. It's not going to interrupt my sleep because it goes straight to voicemail. But I will screen all those, and if it's appropriate, we'll try to include that on the air so you can participate that way. But just grateful for everyone who does participate, even if it's just listening and not speaking up. Churchies says, no, it's just very interesting. The police set her up on some cop show. Okay, that might be interesting for the setup side. Matthew Harris says, recovery addict, the tampering with evidence charge against Cummings was because he washed his face and hands after being maced during the argument with the defendant. Right, and then I heard, I think it was yesterday, that the defense was saying, was there a substance on the gun? And they said yes, but it wasn't tested. Do you think that substance on the gun would be the same mace? Do you think the gun was up when he got sprayed with mace? That might come into play as well. But yeah, washing your face with when you're maced. How do you not do that? How do you just like, hey, I'll just keep it burning? I'll just wait here until police are ready to test to make sure it was maced. But it did hide the evidence. So, but yeah, I mean, would a jury feel that he did that to tamper with evidence, or was that just the human nature thing to do? What any jury member would have done in the same spot? A great point, Matthew. CD Man says, Firefly 64, if you're talking about the incident over Westminster Bridge, I was walking across that just 3 days before it happened. You're talking about the vehicle across the bridge that hit the people. Crazy to be in that same position and just hours, basically 72 hours before. DePolito was delusional, says Tag, especially to think that after she's caught red-handed that she would keep up the it wasn't me defense, right? How do you keep that same story when you're presented with evidence, like Sarah Boone, in her interrogation was like, oh, by the way, we have this video you shot of you committing the crime. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know how that happened. It was just a game. And then eventually she's like, oh, that's just how we are. This is us being loving. This is us having a wonderful, healthy, nurturing relationship with each other. I just tell him to blank you all the time, and this is how you make me feel. And how do you handle that evidence and work that into your theory of defense and still have it all fit nicely like a beautiful puzzle piece? Cindy Collins says, talking about DePolito again, says cops was filming a reality show and caught DePolito coming home and being told her husband was dead, but he wasn't dead. Wow. I'll have to look into that. That sounds fascinating. Delilah, didn't Pelosi get hit with a hammer? Yes. Yes, that's true. We're trying not to focus on that one until it really gets in the courts, because there's so much political banter and stuff back and forth that's really clouding the waters on that case. Lots of allegations that I want to focus on the evidence. Right? There's a lot of people that either love or hate Nancy Pelosi and by association her husband, and so they're saying all sorts of things that I don't think is relevant to the case yet. And so let's let it boil down to the facts, and then we might take a look at that one. Matthew Harris says, Weather Watch. I'm not much of a golfer, but I've heard lots of good things about Rawls. I drive past it every day. I am a great miniature golfer. That's about the best I can do. I got in a vehicle accident, actually. What was it? Was it around 2000 something? It was early 2000s, and sort of messed up my shoulder for a while, and so I'm going to blame that. But the truth is, I never have been a good golfer. I would do better hitting the golf ball with a golf club if you toss the ball up in the air and then I could swing at it. I just can't hit a ball that's sitting still on the ground for some reason. For me, it just does not work. Bruce Camp Armament says, I've been maced, which is actually OC spray. Mace is a brand name. You do wash your face with cool water after being sprayed. That's the treatment to remove the chemical. Right. That's the normal process. Otherwise, it just keeps burning, and it's not pleasant. I mean, even the people who have been maced before, I mean, it triggers, your eyes are watering uncontrollably, your nose is running uncontrollably, the burning continues and continues. I mean, I've only had just a little bit, like a secondary type spray. I've never been close enough to actually get direct contact, and it's a lot. It's a strong spray. A lot of police officers actually have to be maced and even tasered before they carry it themselves, or it's the practice of the police department to do that, just so they're familiar with it. Because in a fight, if in a situation where they have to use it, it might be used against them. They might have to spray an area where they are also in that area, and so they know what's coming and how to work through it. Catherine Havens says, Recovery Addict, what do you think about Lori Vallow trial? When does that one start? Okay, that one has been crazy. First of all, let me see if I can see the dates on Lori's case. We've got the competency hearing. Let's see. Let's see where's she at with the competency. I think it's moving forward, right? She's been declared competent. The last thing I can see is that scheduled to appear in court January 9th. So, like I said, January is, I'm not sure if that's still true. Let's see. She'll face a competency evaluation on November 9th. So next week, we'll know if she's competent. So that's where we're at, November 9th. Daybell has a hearing the next day, November 10th, whether his trial should be separated from his wife. So we'll probably hear a little bit about that next week if that goes forward on the current schedule. If somebody has any other information about when that is going to happen, or if that has changed since this article I just pulled up, let me know, because that will be interesting. There you've got mom that kills her kids, and yeah, not a good situation. KX Star, listening to George beg in the Sarah Boone case was awful. He couldn't breathe, and that's where I think the prosecution will really be able to nail her with intent, because a rational person, a normal human being like most of us are, like the jury members are expected to be, would know that when someone is zipped in a suitcase that you put them in, and they're begging and saying, "I can't breathe, let me out, I can't breathe," would know that they probably can't breathe, right? And then anytime she even turns away and walks away and decides to go upstairs, knowing that, that's the intent. She doesn't have to intend for him to die, but she knows that he can't breathe, and she intentionally leaves him there. I think that's where they'll prove the intent. Paul Ostrich wants a poll. Would you rather be shot or run over? Really? Oh man, I would not want either. I would not want either. I'll tell you, I've never been run over, but I've been a victim of a gun crime where the gun was not fired, thankfully. But I can tell you the fear that put in me as someone was coming at me with a gun was real. It caused me to have the energy to jump a fence I normally would not have been able to climb over. And I was just, it was a remarkable situation. I was able to get away, and unfortunately he was never caught. But the idea of being shot, I'm not a fan. I wouldn't want to shoot someone. I don't want to be shot either. Lori says, Matthew, your channel is so informative. Yes, please. If you have not, just a blatant plug for Matthew Harris Law PLC. He has a great channel. If one of the mods can link his channel there. He's a lawyer out of Texas, and he puts out great videos that teach us about the law and what's, things that we might misunderstand about the law. Excuse me. He's got a great channel there. I'd love for you to go watch those. Subscribe to him as well. We love having him here. He comes in and sets us straight on a couple things where I'm mistaken, and helps a lot with some of the definitions and the process of trial that just aren't familiar to a lot of us. Laura says, recovery addict, Lori Vallow case is so wonky. Her case has been stayed because of being loony. Chad's is next year now because of prior saying he needs more time. Right, so we've got competency hearings in both, right? Because they are wacko. They've got these weird ideas, voices, karma, not karma, but like auras and things that are all going to play into that. A true Celtic Mutt says, I've been both shot and hit by a car. I'll take being hit by a car anytime. All right, so we've got someone who knows who can weigh the two and says the car is the better route. Churchy says, recovery addict. Is there such a charge as malice aforethought in relation to Sarah Boone's case? I'll have to look that up. And by the way, Abby, thank you for. Oops, I just clicked the link instead of highlighting it, which made everything look funny. Just 1 second here. Restore my chat. I've done that twice now when I try to highlight the link for Matthew. I click the wrong thing and it all goes wonky. There we go. Now we're back. But so Abby, thank you for posting that link. That's Matthew Harris, our resident lawyer. Give him a follow. Appreciate him being here and taking some time out of his day between court sessions and doing his job. He comes in here and helps us out. Where were we? The malice aforethought, Churchy. Going back to that, I'm going to have to Google that just to make sure I don't speak wrong as to this. Malice aforethought is the premeditation or predetermination required as an element of some crimes in some jurisdictions and a unique element for first degree and aggravated murder in a few. Insofar as the term is still in use, it has a technical meaning that has changed substantially over time. So it's basically the intention to kill or harm, which is held to distinguish unlawful killing from murder. So are you saying like is this like an aggravating factor? Because she's only charged with second degree murder, right? Not first. Interesting. I'll have to look at that and read some more about it. Barb Murray says, I'll be attending the parade on December 3rd, or December 4th. I think you're talking about the Waukesha Christmas parade. And Barb, that is awesome. I'm so excited. Please cheer loudly for us, for everybody. Our hearts will be with you. Charlie Peterson says, you can't carry a car in a holster to defend yourself, though. Yeah, we've got a little bit. I know we had a little bit of heated gun discussion yesterday, and I would say I hope it doesn't get that heated again. We do have some strong opinions, and I want you guys to be here and share them. Let's just make sure it doesn't go into a personal attack back and forth, and try to keep it civil. These are some important things that we need to talk about, but let's keep it nice in here. Angie says, recovery addicts, what's the longest delay for a trial to start? I know it can be years if you know. Well, it sort of depends, because you have the right to a speedy trial, right? Every defendant has the right to a speedy trial, and they can invoke that right or waive that right, or not do either and sort of just let it happen as it happens. I believe the courts are aware, obviously they're aware of the fact that their docket is full, right? There are a lot of crime cases. There are a lot of people charged with things. And so the right to a speedy trial has sort of evolved as just the work of court is busy. And so trying to work somebody in can be a speedy trial. We want, I think if it's less than, 90 days before your first hearing, that's pretty quick. But a lot of these defendants will waive that right as they're trying to put together their defense. And that's why you have someone who's 4 years later is just being sentenced for their crime, or and other times it takes time to gather prosecution evidence, to search everything, to do all the interviews and re-interviews and everything else. I don't know, and to directly answer your question, I don't know what the longest delay is, but yeah, it can be years. It's a slow process. Drew Keltkamut says, I'm sorry if my gun questions cause problems. No worry. Glad you're here. I know you hold some strong opinions on that, and I appreciate you sharing those. Let's just keep it civil, and we'll all keep enjoying this time together. Okay. TW says, I will be attending the Waukesha Christmas Parade as well. TW, thank you. Hopefully you get to meet up with Barb and just say hi and represent us as a community there. Jennifer, I am taking tips. Obviously, we thought we would have a trial that started next week that we would be watching. I would like to cover trials that are in progress right now, right? I think we might talk about some trials that just looking back at some of the crimes that really just astounded us. Maybe not some of the celebrity ones, but some of the other big ones. Just because I'd like to talk to you about it. And it's what I do in my spare time, and this is sort of what I do. So. We'll talk about some of those, but I'd really like to focus on current trials that are in progress, where we can sit and put ourselves in the situation of the jury and look at the evidence, or at least the evidence that we are able to see. Obviously, we don't see all the evidence in most of these cases, but be able to sort of discuss and decide amongst ourselves how we feel about the process. So yes, please, if you do have a hint or a tip as to what we should watch next, send it to me in a chat or in a text message to my burner phone, and I'll research it, and hopefully we'll be able to take a look at that. I'll just pull up Courtney Cleany and just see what the schedule is on that one. Let's see. Is this the model, right? OnlyFans model, right? Yes, we'll cover some of this. The problem with this right now, I think where we left that case, just from what I've read about it, the defense is pushing very hard to keep everything sealed. They don't want any evidence let out. Unfortunately, the state is a state where they do release information, public information, unless there's reason not to. And so there's a lot of pushback back and forth, because quite frankly the items that might be released are quite salacious. The material she had on her phone was her working material, which she worked on a website that was that basically sells access to images of her of an X-rated nature. And so all this material that was collected as evidence really doesn't make her look good, right? This isn't the image that the defense wants to present of her. And if this goes out to public, if this does, get handed out to media companies as a result of Freedom of Information Act requests or something, it will just, as the defense says, it will just dribble out. It will leak out, one constant drip of this material that will just taint the public's opinion of her. But obviously, I don't want to be in a situation where we're rebroadcasting some of that material, and I don't believe any of the feeds that we would access would show that. But as long as we're careful about that, and it doesn't go down to the area where I really don't want to be on this channel, we'll cover that. Barb Murray says, I'll wear a Recovery Addict t-shirt. I'll have to make a t-shirt for you, Barb. Might have to get with Stephen Lee on some designs. Stephen Lee's one of the followers here that's been really good about sending me some artwork that he's created for us. The last one he sent me was the award for the winning the internet when you're first on the chat, and he sent me the award for that. So pretty cool. Let's see. Barb Murray says, I'll send Recovery Addicts some videos with a shout out. Hey, that is awesome, Barb. But really, when you're up there, just shout for them. This is Waukesha's time, and I don't need to be shouted out up there at all. So I appreciate that and appreciate you going there. Churchy says, Charlie Peterson, thanks. I'm trying to get to grips with some of these terms. I'm unfamiliar with them. Not sure if they're used in the UK. Any insight is appreciated. That's what I love about this group. A lot of you guys are so stinking smart. When it comes to research, this group, if somebody has a question, this group will be able to find it. Matthew Harris, PLC says, PLLC says, criminal cases have the right to a speedy trial, but I have a hearing next week on a divorce that has been pending since June of 2019. Imagine trying to get divorced for 3.5 years. I imagine they're at least separated, Matthew, but yeah, that's a long time for a divorce trial. It sounds like it's not amicable. That's just my guess. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to share information about that one, being their lawyer, but wow, that doesn't sound. That's a nope from Bella. Oh man. Matthew Harris, TW says to you, my case has been pending since I said I do 25 years ago. Oh man, I'm sorry, TW. I have to say I am happily married. I found the best woman in the world. I'm so happy to be married to her. Debbie says, where is Stephen Lee's art page? I'll need to get the link. I don't have the link directly. If he's online, I think I made him a mod so he could drop it, just because I appreciate what he's done. But yeah. Barb says, I want to give you credit. You showed them respect. I wanted to be a dancing granny when I grew up. They are beloved here. They are amazing. Heartbreaking that they took the brunt of that as far as life lost in that parade. But wonderful. I can see you as a dancing granny, Barb. I really can. I can picture it. Tag, a lot of detectives turn to the crime nerds to help with cases because we research everything and brainstorm. Yeah, this is where the true crime gets solved, right here. That would be awesome. Although I would be a little daunted to be called as a witness in a murder trial because we solved the case in chat. That would be funny. Charlie Peterson says, Churchy, don't worry. Even us Americans are constantly keeping up. Since most laws are on a state level, we often have 50 different standards, right? I know New York law well. My sister is a lawyer in Florida, right? Every state's its own little country when it comes to the laws a little bit. And although we have similarities across all 50 states, they're all a little different. Not Ostrich saying, you trying to say I don't have the best woman? I wasn't going to put it in so many words, Ostrich, but yeah. I won on that one, so I'm sure you got second best, but I won. Anyway, this has been awesome today. I think I'm caught up with chat, which means you guys have heard enough from me today, and you're ready to get about your day, which is great. That's wonderful. That's what we can.
I recovered.
I keep playing the wrong thing. I need to use different buttons. Trying to get this working. There we go. Yeah, we're all caught up. I'm going to be watching a couple trials today, researching a couple things. If you have any tips, if you have any leads or things you want us to cover on the show, or questions to answer or anything like that, please send them to me on a text on my burner phone. That's the 801-513-1160 number for those of you that are just listening to this, because I found out that some of you actually just listen to this show like a podcast. Even been asked to release the audio of the show as a podcast, and I'll look into that. If it would help you guys, that would be great. Debbie says, will you be back later today? Maybe. Depends what happens today. I'll definitely be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, right? We've waited all week for Friday, and we'll be back on Friday. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about what trials are coming up. I'm going to do some more research, and I really could use your tips. So I'm not just saying this. Even if you think I already know about it, I might have forgotten. Send me a text with what trial intrigues you, what interests you, maybe a question you want me to answer, or an idea you want me to explain. A legal idea. What I'll do is I'll call Matthew Harris and say, teach me what I should say. Matthew Harris says, would you mind sharing some of your lessons you've learned as you got into live streaming? I'd love to. It's the equipment, the stuff that I have here doesn't make the show. What makes the show is having a community to talk to, and that's you guys. So I imagine a lot of you, if not most of you, could do better at this than I'm doing. Most of you are smarter than I am, and have done this longer. But I'm going to restart the music because I'm talking too long. But I'd be happy to share anything I can. If you guys are interested in doing this or interested in learning how it works, I'd be happy to share that. So Churchy says, great chat, great people. Love seeing this community grow and get to know each other. I love hanging out with you all. Have a great day, says Debbie. Thanks for the stream. Glad I came across your channel. Hey, Star, thanks for being here as well. Patty, you as well. TC and everyone. Thank you all for being here. Abby, excellence in YouTubing, if there is such a thing. I'm glad we're achieving it. Good vibes from Bella. Ash, bye-bye. Love from Oklahoma. Waukesha Proud, says Barb. Yeah, that's definitely got to be on the shirt for sure. I have a wealth of knowledge. Well, Ferry, I learned most of it from you guys in chat. So thank you so much. Have a great day. So I probably will not be on again today. We'll talk 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Maybe if something happens, I'll post a video or go live for a little bit, but you don't have to be sitting by your phone by any means. But so I appreciate it. I see some texts coming in already, which let's see, this one's just a question. Hello, do you think that Nicholas Cruz would commit suicide being in solitary confinement for so long? Possibly. It's hard to do in prison. So I don't think they'll let him. Especially, they'll probably be watching him pretty closely. Let's see. Sandy Field says, my question is there a minimum intelligence requirement for a defendant? This question comes while I'm watching the Jacksonville trial. Hey, Sandy, I'll get to yours tomorrow, if that's all right. I'll see if I can answer that question and do some research. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to say peace. I'm out of here. Give a hug to everybody you love. Make somebody smile today. Sure would appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We'll catch you on tomorrow's live stream.